I want to make you my wife. I will take care of you. You will never be alone again.
In a land where the soil was as red as palm oil and the nights were filled with the sound of crickets, there was a quiet village called Akunla. Akunla village was surrounded by tall trees, wide farms, and a slow-moving river that people believed listened to secrets. The elders said the land was old and remembered everything that had ever happened on it. The people of Akunla lived simple lives. They farmed during the day, told stories at night, and respected the traditions handed down from their ancestors. Everyone knew everyone, and strangers were noticed quickly. In this village lived a young woman named Saad. Saad was known for her beauty, but more than that, she was known for her kindness. Her smile was gentle, her voice was soft, and she greeted elders properly every morning. She helped her mother in the kitchen, fetched water from the stream, and assisted neighbors whenever she could. But Saad had one deep sadness. She was alone. Her father had died many years ago, and her mother followed not long after. Since then, Saad lived in her parents' old mud house at the edge of the village. Though many people pitied her, they also whispered behind her back. "She is too quiet," some women said. "She is too old to still be unmarried," others murmured. Saad heard these whispers, even when people thought she did not. Many men had come to ask for her hand in marriage, but none stayed long. Some wanted her land, some wanted her beauty, but not her heart. Others feared the strange silence around her home, especially at night. Saad wanted love, not riches, not status, just someone who would stay. Every evening, she sat outside her house and watched the sun sink into the trees. She prayed softly, asking the ancestors and God to send her someone who would love her truly. One evening, as the sky turned dark purple, Saad noticed something unusual. A man was walking toward her house. This alone was strange. Visitors rarely came to her side of the village, especially after sunset. The man was tall and dressed neatly in dark clothes. He walked slowly, calmly, as if he knew exactly where he was going. His face was handsome, but pale, like someone who spent little time under the sun. When he reached her gate, he stopped and bowed politely. "Good evening, Saad," he said. Saad froze, her heart beat fast. "How do you know my name?" she asked. The man smiled gently. "In Akunla, everyone knows everyone," he replied. "My name is Kunal." His voice was deep and soothing. There was something about it that made Saad feel calm, even though fear danced quietly in her chest. Kunal explained that he had been away from the village for many years. He said he recently returned and noticed Saad from afar. He spoke with respect, choosing his words carefully. Night after night, Kunal returned. They talked outside her house under the moonlight. He listened to her stories, he laughed at her jokes. He never rushed her or raised his voice. Unlike other men, he never asked about her land or possessions. Soon, Saad found herself smiling more often. For the first time in many years, her loneliness began to fade. But the village noticed something strange. No one ever saw Kunal during the day. Whenever women asked Saad about him, she said, "He travels during the day." The elders frowned. Which man visits only at night? They asked. Saad ignored them. Her heart had already chosen. After many weeks, Kunal asked for her hand in marriage. "I want to make you my wife," he said softly one night. "I will take care of you. You will never be alone again." Said's eyes filled with tears. She said yes. The wedding was quiet to quiet. Connell insisted they marry at night, with only a few witnesses. He said it was his family tradition. Sod, blinded by love, agreed. After the marriage, Sod moved into Connell's house, located deep in the forest, far from the village. The house was beautiful, but cold. The walls were always damp, and the air felt heavy. At night, Connell was loving and gentle. But during the day, he was never there. Sod would wake up alone. His side of the mat would be cold. No footsteps, no voice, no sign of him. When she asked, Connell only smiled and said, "Do not worry. All is well." But strange things began to happen. Sod stopped dreaming. Her reflection in the water looked weak. And one night, as she followed Connell secretly into the forest, she saw something that made her blood run cold. Sade's heart beat loudly as she followed Connell that night. The moon was thin like a broken plate, giving only a little light. Connell walked ahead of her, his steps quiet, almost floating above the ground. Sod held her wrapper tightly around her body as branches scratched her arms. She did not know why she followed him. All she knew was that something inside her whispered, "See the truth." Connell did not look back. He walked deeper into the forest than Sod had ever gone before. This part of the forest was forbidden. Elders warned children never to enter it, saying it was a place where spirits rested and where the living did not belong. Soon, Connell stopped. Sod hid behind a thick tree and watched. In front of Connell was a small clearing. At the center of it stood an old mound of earth, shaped like a grave. The soil looked untouched by rain or time. White stones surrounded it in a perfect circle. Connell knelt beside the mound. Sod covered her mouth to stop herself from crying out. Connell began to speak, but not in a normal voice. His words sounded hollow, like echoes inside a pot. "I have returned," he said. "I have kept my promise." Suddenly, the air grew cold. The leaves stopped moving. The forest went silent. Sod felt her legs weaken. Then Connell stood up and turned his head slowly, directly toward her hiding place. "Sod," he called softly, "you should not be here." Fear froze her body. Connell walked toward her, his eyes glowing faintly in the dark. When he reached her, his face looked different. His skin was paler. His smile no longer felt warm. "You followed me," he said calmly. I was worried," Sod whispered. Connell sighed. "Come," he said. "It is time you know some things." They returned home in silence. That night, Connell sat Sod down and spoke the truth he had hidden. "I was once a man of a Cumla," he began. "I lived, I loved, and I dreamed." Sod listened, shaking. "Many years ago," Connell continued, "I died." Sod screamed. Connell raised his hand gently. "Do not be afraid. Listen." He explained that he died suddenly during a terrible sickness that passed through the village long before Sod was born. His body was buried in the forbidden forest, away from the living, as tradition demanded. "But my spirit could not rest," Connell said. "I died with regret. I died alone, and the ancestors allowed me to return." Under conditions, Sade's tears fell freely. "What conditions?" she asked. Connell looked away. "I was allowed to walk among the living at night only. I could feel love again. But only if a living woman accepted me fully as her husband." Sade's heart shattered. "So, you are dead," she whispered. "Yes," Connell replied. "But I love you." Sod ran outside and cried until morning. The next day, Connell was gone, as always. But this time, Sod did not feel calm. She felt trapped. She returned to the village secretly to seek help. The elders listened quietly as she told her story. When she finished, the oldest elder, Baba Ajani, struck the ground with his staff. "We warned this village," he said. "The dead must remain with the dead." The women gasped. "This is a spirit marriage," Baba Ajani continued. If nothing is done, Sade's life force will slowly drain. When she becomes weak enough, she will join him forever. Sod collapsed. Can I be saved? She cried. Baba Ajani nodded slowly. Yes, but it will not be easy. He explained that Kunal was bound to her because of love and acceptance. To break the bond, Kunal himself must choose to let her go, or powerful ancestral rites must be performed before the next full moon. If the moon becomes full while she is still bound, Baba Ajani warned, she will cross over. That night, Sod returned to Kunal's house. Kunal knew she had gone to the elders. I never wanted to harm you, he said suddenly. I only wanted to live again, even for a short time. Sod held his hands. I loved you, she said, but I want to live. Kunal closed his eyes. Outside, the forest began to whisper. The full moon was coming, and time was running out. The days that followed were the longest days of Sade's life. Each morning, she woke up weaker than the day before. Her arms felt heavy, her steps slow, and her eyes often burned with tiredness. The villagers noticed that her once bright face now looked pale, like the early morning moon. At night, Kunal returned. He watched Sod closely, his eyes filled with sorrow. You are fading, he said softly. Sod nodded. I can feel it, she replied. It is like something is pulling me away from this world. Kunal sat beside her, but did not touch her. For the first time since their marriage, there was distance between them. Meanwhile, Baba Ajani and the elders began their preparations. They chose a sacred day, 3 nights before the full moon. The ritual had to be done at the old Iroko tree near the Forbidden Forest. It was a place where the living and the spirit world were said to meet. Women brought palm oil, white cloth, kola nuts, and clean water from the river that listened to secrets. The men gathered dry wood and carved symbols into small pieces of wood. No drums were allowed, no singing. This is not a celebration, Baba Ajani warned. This is a separation. Sod was instructed to stay pure in heart and speech. She was told not to cry loudly, not to curse Kunal, and not to insult the spirits. Anger will bind you tighter, Baba Ajani said. Calmness will open the way. On the night of the ritual, the moon hung low and red. Sod was dressed in a plain white cloth. Her hair was left loose, just as tradition demanded. 2 elderly women supported her as she walked, for her legs trembled with every step. Kunal followed behind them. He looked different now. His body seemed thinner, and sometimes parts of him faded slightly, like smoke in the wind. As they reached the Iroko tree, the air changed. It became thick and quiet. Baba Ajani raised his staff and spoke. Spirits of the land, ancestors of Akamla, hear us tonight, he said. We ask for balance. We ask for mercy. The elders formed a circle around Sod and Kunal. A bowl of water was placed between them. This water reflects truth, Baba Ajani said. No lies may pass this place. Kunal knelt. Sod wanted to run to him, but the women held her back. Baba Ajani turned to Kunal. You were once of the living, he said. Why do you refuse to rest? Kunal lifted his head. I was lonely, he answered. I wanted love. I wanted to feel warmth again. Murmurs passed through the elders. Baba Ajani nodded slowly. Love is powerful, he said. But it must not steal life. He turned to Sod. Do you release this man from your heart? Tears filled Sade's eyes. She remembered Kunal's kindness, his gentle voice, the way he listened to her when no one else did. Yes, she whispered. I release him. Kunal shook. The wind blew suddenly, lifting dust into the air. Baba Ajani struck the ground 3 times. Kunal, he commanded, will you release her? Kunal hesitated. Silence stretched like a tight rope. If he refused, Sod would be lost. Slowly, Kunal reached into his clothing and pulled out a small, wooden charm. This is what binds us, he said. My last promise to the world of the living. He looked at Sod one last time. I truly loved you, he said. That love was real, Sod cried quietly. I know, she replied. Connell dropped the charm into the bowl of water. The water began to ripple, the charm cracked and sank. A cold wind rushed through the clearing, and the Iroko tree groaned loudly. Connell cried out not in pain, but in sadness. His body began to fade, starting from his feet. Do not follow me, he said quickly. Live, love, grow old. Sod fell to her knees. I will remember you, she said. With a final soft smile, Connell disappeared completely. The forest went silent. Baba Ajani covered the bowl with white cloth. It is done, he said. Sod collapsed into the arms of the women. The elders knew the ritual had worked, but they also knew something else. This was not the end. The full moon had not yet come. And sometimes, the spirit world does not let go so easily.